I think one of the things that are really underestimated is how rapidly the AI and automation is accelerating the skills change in like existing roles today. But what I love about them and what I love about employers like them is that they're putting the human first and they're saying, hey, we may be automating this, but we have some great people here.
We are entering certain spaces, we're exiting some other spaces, we're exploring some new industries, we're exiting some other industries, and y'all developed a model that taps into that reality.
Humans are at the center of all this technological innovation that's happening. But at the end of the day, we continue to empower human potential.
Welcome back to Future Human Experience Podcast. I am your host, Eric Rodriguez. I'm so excited for our conversation today. We have Jason Weinstein today, our Chief Officer of Maricopa Corporate College. Thank you so much for being part of Future Human Experience.
Yeah, Eric, thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here with you.
Jason, one of the things that you lead for the organization is the workforce development piece. And we'll talk about a little bit more about our collaboration in the space, but tell us a little bit more about what does it look like to lead an organization that is in charge of developing the workforce of the future?
Yeah, well, actually, I'm representing Maricopa Corporate College, and we have two purposes in our system. One is to be a workforce training provider, and as I'm sure you know, Maricopa Community College is the largest workforce provider in the state. We train more Arizona residents than all of the universities combined, and our talent stays here, so it's pretty amazing. Our role in our system when it comes to workforce development is really supportive, and it's to help our system stand up industry responsive workforce strategies that are multiple colleges and responding to industry needs. So semiconductor is a good example of that. Through our project management and our marketing functions, we ensure that the student journey is consistent regardless of what college the student enrolls in, and they receive consistent communication so that whatever college they want to enroll in, they are having the same exact journey as everybody else.
And I've been really impressed on how nimble some of these organizations are, right? That I've been in Arizona for 15 years now, going into 16, 16 years very shortly. The transformation that we've seen in the city and the state has been exponential change, right? Drastic change. And you've had organizations like yourselves being nimble enough to adjust to these spaces. What does it mean for y'all to be flexible enough to adjust to these needs, right? You have an industry that looks like this today, a new industry tomorrow. Yeah. What does that look like? Or what are some of those key ingredients that y'all bring to the table to make you so nimble and responsive to these changes?
I love that question. And I mean, we are in the epicenter of needing to be nimble and move at the speed of business. And, I think one of the things that are really underestimated is how rapidly the AI and automation is accelerating the skills change in like existing roles today. And it's so rapid. It's been rapidly evolving for a long time, but we have to be where the puck is moving, not where it is now. And we implement a business and industry leadership team model at Maricopa Community Colleges around IT and cyber and things. And that really is a team of industry people co-developing curriculum to ensure that we're not only teaching the skills that are needed today, but we're teaching the emerging skills that are emerging in demand and they see coming. So there's occupations and skills that we're developing content for now that don't necessarily exist today, but it's where the puck is moving. So,
and the way that you're able to find where the puck is moving too is you were sharing with me the story off camera, which is sometimes when companies come to think or explore of investing in a particular location, Arizona, the city of Phoenix, and certain communities, they come together, not cohesively, but as coordinated as possible to talk about how we're going to be addressing the needs of those companies. And education is a piece of that, right? It's not just, hey, tomorrow you could build here and you're going to have a great office space. It's no, this is going to have a great office space and employees and workforce and service providers for decades to come.
Yeah, Eric, it's one of the things I love most about being here in Arizona is it's truly like a ecosystem that is coordinated. It may not always feel like it, but it truly is. And when our economic development partners like GPEC and others are courting some of these businesses from overseas to come here, they have essentially a talent education and talent pipeline day. And they invite in the universities, the community colleges to talk about our robust programming, the scale at which we can operate, the nimbleness and how we create programs, the different non-academic and academic products. We want them to know that if they move here and they do business here, that they have an ecosystem of partners that are going to support them.
That is cool. And when we talk about workforce development today, what has changed over the last decade or so that you've seen? I mean, now that we're becoming much more digital, now we're in this era of AI. Have you seen something in the workforce conversation kind of lead into some different discussions that either we're doing a little bit better than others or we're evolving to do better than others?
I think it's a little bit of both. And I think when I hear your question, my initial reaction, I want to talk about like how we're designing the products that we design to meet the workforce needs. So I think when I think about like business leaders thinking about workforce development, I think about I want them to know that at the community colleges and other education and training providers, we are creating everything from fast track programs that enable people to take a short-term training program and get their foot in the door at a company. And a lot of those programs, we have industry partners that are waiting to interview that talent.
Wow.
But that's really somebody trying to break into the market. But our products today need to support people over their entire career pathway because of how rapidly the skills are evolving and the nature of their role changes over the course of their career. So we need to have multiple on-ramps and off-ramps over the course of their path so that they can access the education they need when they need it.
So what you're sharing is pretty much what I've heard several leaders and government talk about, how we're serving the workforce of the future. It's not just going through high school. If I decided to get a postgraduate degree, go into college or I have different paths there, and I'm done in my mid-20s and I'm good to go for the next 40 years.
Right.
Y'all are addressing something that is now normalized, which is we are entering certain spaces, we're exiting some other spaces, we're exploring some new industries, we're exiting some other industries. And y'all have developed a model that taps into that reality that we are basically in today, that industries are evolving, things are changing.
Yeah.
As an automation engineer myself, I could recognize that completely because it was probably around 20 years ago now that I was working in a refinery as an automation engineer, Jason. And I remember vividly having this conversation with an operator at that time and asking him, I said, how many employees used to work in this side of the refinery? And he said, well, we used to have 20 employees on this particular area that I was helping automate. And today they had 6 operators. And I was like, what happened to the other 14? And it wasn't that their jobs went away.
Right.
Is that, no, they changed jobs. They had to go and do something much more specialized or a little bit different, or help us with the turnarounds, which is the most expensive investment that a refinery does, because now they are experts in the tools that they get to use. Now they get to help us shut down these systems and bring them back up, and they go all around the world to do these.
Right.
But they had to also get some additional training to go and meet that need that these companies had, right? So this doesn't just happen, but the companies understand that this change is happening. These jobs were changing because of automation, because of technology. And so their skill sets had to be leveled up.
Yeah.
And so I'm certain there are organizations that were tapping into at that time. But now we've just normalized that space, right? That we come in and out of industries.
Yeah.
And so that's really good to hear that we're addressing those needs today.
Yeah, absolutely. When I listen to, I'm thinking of the stackable nature of our programs. And this is, one of our terms, which the common language between education and industry, I think has improved a lot, but I feel like it was a gap for a long time when we look at skills-based hiring processes. But somebody could take one of these fast track programs and get their foot in the door. Now they may be working for an employer that has a tuition assistance program, and maybe they find their true passion in some pathway that company offers. But now they can come back and earn a certificate program that is very intentional, because they know if they earn that certificate, they'll get promoted or realize a wage increase, and they'll learn new skills. And through that process, they'll be earning college credits, so they can get their foot in the door, then maybe have their company help them out with tuition assistance, be intentional in the certificate they earn, stack those 18 credits into an associate's degree, go back to work, find out, get really good at your skill, hone those skills, and now you know what the next step is and what you need to focus on to get that next promotion. So you go back and earn that next certificate. Now you've earned another 18 credits. You're on your way to a full associate's degree at that point, but you're intentional about the pathway you're selecting to follow, and you're hopefully receiving recognition through promotions and wage increases along the way as you intentionally design your own educational journey. Yeah.
No, I love that, Jason. It reminds me of this conversation I had early on in my career with one of my managers. He would see me every day at 5 o'clock, clock out, And I would go and do work in the community, either in education. I was teaching a class in Spanish in Chandler Public Library, digital literacy in Espanol. I was doing work on the weekends for nonprofits, for schools, and teaching kids about STEM. And so he stopped me one day. He said, Eric, what do you want to do? And I was like, what do you mean what do I want to do? I'm an engineer. I'll switch my cubicles a couple times and I'll get promoted 2-3 times and we're good. Like I'll retire in 30, 40 years, right? That's my plan.
Yeah.
And, he challenged me again on our next one-on-one. He said, no, Eric, really, like, what do you want to go do? And I was like, is he asking me, like, is he trying to fire me or something? like, what's wrong here? And so he challenged me and I told him, I said, am I doing a wrong job? Like, am I not performing? He's like, no, you're fine. He's like, I just see you do all this other stuff outside of work. Is that something you care about? And so I came back to our next one-on-one and I had an answer for him. I said, I do care about this. I think the future, as we're building this tech company that's disrupting everything, we need to be much more thoughtful about how we're bringing the next generations along into this future that we're trying to build. If not, we're going to leave these generations behind.
Right. Yeah.
And as soon as I answered that, I was like, okay, great. I'm no longer going to be an engineer in this company. I'm going to get fired. I was like, did I just get my pink slip? And he told me no. He's like, Eric, that is great. I will help you do that. The only thing I ask you to do is just think about every job you have from here on out as a tool into your toolbox.
Yeah.
Don't think about the title. Don't think about the grade level. Don't think about the promotion. Just think about stacking. Right now I'm thinking about, that's probably who was asking me to do, just stack these tools.
Yeah.
Because when you stack these tools, these doors start opening up for you.
Absolutely.
And exactly what he said started happening to me, Jason. Like I went to this other role, I learned about being people manager. I went to this other role, I learned about corporate strategy. I went to this other role, learned about community development. And then slowly and surely, these promos started happening. I still had to advocate for myself, and you had to have people advocating for you. But more importantly, I learned there that not only was I stacking those skills, but because I was thoughtful enough to tell someone the problem I cared about solving, those doors started opening up for me on, okay, Eric, go and stack this skill so you can go and solve this problem a little bit better, a little bit differently. And so I'm very grateful that I had those opportunities to do that. Again, this is a massive 120,000 person company. But sometimes if we're in a 100-person company or a 1,000-person company, we might not have those opportunities to go and stack those skills. That is where organizations like yours could come in and help and support and advise those individuals so they could keep growing their careers.
Yeah, I love that. And I love you sharing your story like that. It got me thinking about some of the work we're doing at Maricopa Corporate College, working with some of our clients in terms of, we're really in the leadership development space or the professional development space. But a lot of clients come to us because jobs are changing, and even things like adaptability or exercising judgment or critically thinking, problem solving, communication, things like that, even how we deliver some of that content has changed because of how the nature of roles and how people work together have changed. That's an example, I guess, from our corporate college. But we also, at the community colleges, we have a large finance company, for example, that we work super closely with. And they understand that their call center operators are at risk of having their jobs completely automated. But what I love about them and what I love about employers like them is that they're putting the human first, and they're saying, hey, we may be automating this, but we have some great people here. And we have a workforce shortage of people that have the credentials they need to manage investments and work with people in that way, like wealth management. And they are working with the community colleges to upskill their call center employees to help them not only earn more money and learn a new skill, but also fill a gap that they have in another like line of business. So those are my favorite stories to tell, because I truly believe that even as artificial intelligence and automation continue to have impacts on the workforce, we have to continue to put humans first and understand that it will only deepen the need for humans to be really good at what they're doing so we can leverage these technologies in the best way.
Yeah, I love that. I'm smiling ear to ear right now because what you were just sharing with me is that the premium experience is the human experience, right? So as the world gets much more digitized, the high value stack of the human experience is now the most valuable experience that our customers are going to have, our employers are going to have, our employees are going to have, our families are going to have. Is that human experience. What you're sharing with me with the call center, I'm just envisioning what the future of a call center is, that now when, 10 years from now, when I call into a call center, I better have the most thoughtful conversation I've had with a call center because of their new human skills or the developed skills, what have you, versus their standard approach today. And don't get me wrong, I think they're still changing today, right? Even when I call a call center today, they just treat me a little bit differently than they did probably 5-10 years ago, right? Because you're seeing the up level of that. The same example I see today when we talk about automated cars, and we're seeing Waymos in our cities, right? They're all over, they're all automated. And some of the common questions I get is like, Eric, does that mean Ubers are going away? I said, no, the Ubers that are staying are going to be the most premium Ubers you've ever experienced in your life. Like, you're going to go into an Uber and you're going to be like, wow, that feels like a limousine today, right? Because everything else has been automated, right? So the human experience is now the most valuable one.
Yeah.
And so those employees that are staying in those experiences or getting retrained to go and be much more human-centered service providers, they're going to be much more valuable, higher paid, and have longer careers as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah. I mean, I love a good prompting when I go to call.
Yeah.
But nothing gives me more satisfaction than when I get a human on the
phone. Absolutely, yeah. I give the call center prompt just one prompt. Yeah. If they don't give me where I need to get to, I'm like, press zero. Yeah. I need to talk to a human being. Even though I might go to 2 or 3 the next time, but it's okay. I want to talk to a human being. Yeah, I'm the exact same way.
Yeah, for sure.
With that said too, Jason, we have a really interesting collaboration happening too here in the Arizona area, a human-centered AI leadership course that I'm really excited to be working with y'all with.
Yeah.
And so folks that have been following me on social media have seen that coming to life. What are your expectations of a class like this? Can you tell us a little bit more about what could people not only expect from this, but what would you like for the outcome of a class like this to be, not only our students and our community?
Yeah, first of all, we're so proud to be partnering with you in this space. And I mean, it's a new endeavor for us as well, but we see there's a need for it. So, I think that I would like to see people coming through that course and embracing AI in the spirit of leadership, not fearing AI and it replacing jobs. I think going from using AI in their roles to really embracing and leading with it in a human-centered way. I think there's a lot of leadership skills that can be gleaned when you accept and embrace these technologies that will only continue to advance.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think, when I think of success, obviously we'll see more demand for this great workshop series, right?
Yeah.
But I think of our team sometimes because we have these T-shirts that we wear to some events, and they're all branded with our logos and stuff. So we love to do team building and we love to get out there and do things. But on the back of those shirts, it says empowering human potential. And when I think of success for this, it's that there is demand. We are investing in employees and we're putting humans first, and humans are at the center of all this technological innovation that's happening. But at the end of the day, we continue to empower human potential. And I think by investing in our workforce and creating new opportunities and empowering people to take on new roles and learn new skills over the course of their career, I think is really just empowering and seizing the full potential of what humans can bring to the table. So I think of our tagline on our shirt when I think of success for this course.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So Jason, let's go back to workforce planning. I'm sure in 2019, so many organizations got together, said, you know what, this is our next 3-5-year plan for workforce development. We got this down. There's an 80% confidence that this is our workforce need. And 2020 happened and everything just got scratched, right? And it seems that we're seeing those moments every 6 months or so now, right? And you're creating these gaps to a certain extent in our workforce on what we think we need, but what is actually there internally, what might be out there in the market. How is the organization navigating some of that? Or what have y'all seen organizations try to address these gaps they're just not naturally happening, but they're just part of the reality today in multiple industries transforming?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And I think when I hear gap, and I come back to bridging a gap between industry and education. And I think our common language is skills. So I think especially with the impacts of technologies and everything you just described about, 2019 forward and where we find ourselves today, it really takes true collaboration in this ecosystem that I think we mentioned earlier, and speaking in a common language and really looking at skills-based hiring processes, because the magic is really in the skills and demonstrating competency in those skills. So as long as we're speaking a common language, I've seen job descriptions, especially with a lot of the suppliers coming from overseas. They really need help understanding our market. But I've seen job descriptions where we're calling a position an engineer and requiring 5 years of experience along with a bachelor's degree, yet we're offering $18 to $20 an hour. And when you really look at the skills that the company needs, it's not an engineering role. It's really a technician role. And they don't really need a bachelor's, because if I showed them what the skills are that are being learned and competency demonstrated in matches this job description, and that's just a certificate of completion that earns, let's say 12, 18 college credits, companies will say that's exactly what we need. And if they take this one other class, we can actually hire them for this role. And so I think it takes conversations like that and an openness to really bridge the gap between education and industry, so that we're all speaking the same language and working towards the same goals.
That is great to hear, because sometimes you're right. We would see these job descriptions. I've developed several job descriptions in the past when we were hiring, and I would use my corporate language, right? Sometimes I forget that the audience that's listening to this or watching or seeing this particular job posting, it is not someone that is used to our language within that corporate structure that we have, right? And we're using certain acronyms that have no meaning for someone outside of a company. So sometimes understanding what we're trying to say when we put these job listings out there and who our ideal candidates are is huge. And I think that is an awesome opportunity that we have today, because sometimes we could get really excited by putting a job posting, because when we do put a job listing, I'll tell you this, when we do put a job listing, it's because we're trying to address a problem. Like there is a gap in my team, in my organization. I'm like, if I'm going to invest, frankly, 1.5 to 1.7, the cost of that salary, right? Because there's an office space I need to give them. There's equipment. There's healthcare. There's all sorts of stuff, right? And so that was the calculation that we would do as a company, and so I'm going to take this seriously. And so that job listing is beefed up, right? I put so much in it, but I never thought that it's probably overwhelming as well, right? I'm asking for a unicorn out here when it's not the reality. And so individuals like yourself that could come in and say, Eric, really, like, what do you really need? What problem are you really trying to solve? That's an important conversation that at times is not had. And to see y'all talking to the industry partners, to the companies about this, you're addressing a huge gap, because that's not only going to help us find that unicorn, it's going to help us find that right employee for the right problem I'm trying to solve.
You remind me of an event I was at last night with a lot of HR professionals. And this particular company, their HR team was talking about a requisition they've had open over 200 days.
Oh my God.
And they've interviewed, but then it goes to the hiring manager and the person has everything on paper, but something just didn't set right. So it almost becomes time of like, well, do you really need this job filled? It hasn't been filled in 200 days. And at the end of the day, too, with everything you said about 2019 and the remote work environment that so many people experience, it's a competitive labor market. And people now have their demands and what they want work to be. So it's also helping some companies be competitive. Like the story I told earlier about the engineer and, well, this is really a technician. Like, we want you to have a robust applicant pool for your opening. We want you to be competitive in the market. And, a competitive company, and we use some fancy labor market tools that will show companies like what the average wage is for this worker in the Phoenix metro area. So we can ground it in data for them to see like, what does it take to be competitive in this market today in the Phoenix metro area, which is pretty cool.
Wow. And Jason, before we wrap up, one of the things that y'all do really well too is that you're also meeting the needs of multiple areas of employees, right? So from the leadership side to our frontline individuals to our C-suite, our executives. Can you tell us a little bit more about not only addressing some of those gaps, but sometimes we forget that we do have those frontline employees. How have y'all been able to tap into that need and to that market and to those employees that are probably our largest employee base?
Yeah, I love that question. And it actually is super timely because we've had several clients. Like, I think it's not lost on people leaders, business leaders, that it is very important. And there is investment in developing their next generation of leaders. But really, that's for supervisors and managers that get those opportunities. And we've heard from at least half a dozen of our clients, even a large professional organization that we work very closely with. They were demanding from us, like, can you guys develop something that's really for our frontline workers? Because we don't make the same investment. We my word, there's an underinvestment in the frontline worker more often than there are in the supervisory level workers. Yeah. So we have a very popular leadership series that we do at the corporate college. It's amazing. The AI-centered, the human-centered AI leadership is like a great kind of spin, and maybe even a next level to that for people that want to do something more, who have already graduated that course. But now we have what we call an workforce essential skills series of workshops that companies can enroll 1 or 2 people in them and start developing their frontline staff too, because they are just as important and meaningful, and often they're the ones most engaged with customers and clients. So we need to be making sure we stay vigilant in developing all of our workforce, not just some of our workforce.
That is awesome. And we'll have links to all that courses, to the products in our show notes. So make sure our audience can tap into that. Jason, before we leave, one of the things we love to do with our guests is we ask them to come up with a surprise question. Okay. So Jason, what do you have for me today on the future human experience?
Yeah. I'm always really genuinely have been interested in how a person finds themselves on their path. And you shared a little bit earlier. But I guess my question for you is 2-part. How did you find yourself on your path? And is there one moment in time that you can point to that said, this is where you found your passion for it?
Oof. So I think it was interesting. I was asked to be an MC for a corporate event at our company. And I was asked because I had volunteered to be part of the organizing committee. And apparently I was the last one to be asked because everyone else had said no. and I was like the junior employee, and I was like, well, I guess I have to do this now. And so I decided to do it. And but I also said yes because I was very comfortable being in front of an audience. And if I was representing the company, I would enjoy doing that. And I found myself in that moment with other executives, other leaders from the company. I ended up coming to that event, and they were also challenging me. They said, Eric, what do you want to do? Like, you're a really good communicator. Yeah. And I said, well, no, again, I'm an engineer. That's what I do. I'm going to switch cubes a few times and that's it. Right. And then 6 months later, they asked me to be part of a team that was going to go and present in front of the CEO of the company in Silicon Valley. Nice. Because they saw me in that moment. And so sometimes it's not only seeing myself do it, but someone else validating and say, hey, Eric, you have something here. You should go and explore a little bit more. And so I'm incredibly grateful for those individuals that did that, because they didn't have to. They just say, we're going to do this event. It's good. Eric, good job. Here's a little goodie drawer or a little gift card. Thank you for your work. Yeah. Let's move on. No, those leaders, those employees invested in me and said, you know what, you got something here. And so slowly those validation points started to show up. Yeah. I ended up speaking at certain events. And then I ended up hosting certain events. I ended up being in charge of bringing in speakers to certain events. So I got to learn the business of speaking by accident to a certain extent. Yeah. And so that was really cool. And it was also in that exploration I started to ask myself, what's the difference between my job and my work? And it was thanks to that first manager that I shared the story with earlier that he helped me understand that I'm trying to solve a bigger problem and my jobs are just going to be jobs until my toolbox. And then I eventually realized, I stepped back and I said, my corporate career, I loved it. I loved my entire corporate career. But now maybe my job needs to be something a little bit different than the corporate room. And let me go and explore this and do this on my own, because I still want to go and solve this bigger problem of this digital future that this human-centered digital future we're trying to build. Yeah. And so it was in that journey that I kind of found myself. Doesn't mean that I wouldn't mind going back to corporate world. I still miss it a lot. Yeah. But there's some aspects of the work that I get to do, like get to collaborate with y'all like that. I mean, I get to pinch myself every day and say, I get to do a class and a course and get to meet with wonderful people. That's a dream now for me, right? And now what that opens up, I'm open to the possible. That's the other part too that I've learned on this journey. And I see myself as someone that's always been open to the possible. And I think that's where this human era is going to build for all of us, is that we get to do this work today, but tomorrow might bring us something brand new because of what we get to do today. So
I love that.
Awesome. Well, Jason, thank you so much for that question. More importantly, thank you so much for being part of the Future Human Experience podcast. How can people connect with the organization, with you, and with the work they all are doing?
Yeah, well, you said there'll be links
Yeah.
to everything
Okay.
and things like that. Just reach out. I mean, LinkedIn, our website,
Okay.
however you find us, we're there waiting to see how we can find a solution for it.
Wonderful. Awesome. Jason, thank you so much for being part of the Future Human
Yeah,
Experience.
thanks for having me, Eric.
Thank you for listening to this episode. I'm inspired to hear that these conversations are resonating within our communities, our organizations, our companies, and our households all around the world. If you found this conversation to be valuable, please take the time to like, subscribe, and share it with someone else. I do believe that as the future gets much more digitized, it gives us an opportunity to be much more human as well. And these conversations are part of that journey. So if you're enjoying the content on this channel, please check out these videos. Thank you.